A girl is horrified to learn she has reincarnated as Catarina Claes, the villainess of her favorite game. Now she must do everything in her power to prevent the protagonist from bringing about her downfall. In the capital of the Kingdom of Sasie, a bratty young noble girl, Catarina Claes, throws a tantrum. Much to the distress of her many maids, her overindulgent father enters her room, bringing with him the third prince of the kingdom, Jordo Stewart. Instantly developing a crush on the prince, Catarina sticks to him like glue as the two go for a walk in the garden. The troubled prince tries to create some space between the two, and Catarina, in a hurry to grab his arm, accidentally falls and hits her head. She passes out and is besieged by an influx of memories. Initially confused, she slowly recognizes that these memories belong to her in a past life. As she regains consciousness, she realizes her reincarnated life has followed the plot of an Otome game she used to play back on Earth called Fortune Lover. It takes her a few days to recover from this shocking discovery. The prince, feeling responsible for the injury, offers an engagement, which she absentmindedly agrees to. After the prince departs, Catarina writes down everything she remembers about the game within a notebook. Fortune Lover follows a 15-year-old commoner named Maria, who arrives at a magic academy and meets 4 romance targets. These are Catarina's adopted brother Keith, the prince, Jordo, his younger twin Alan, and son of the Prime Minister, Nicol Askert. Much to her dismay, she realizes that Catarina Claes had been the villainess, and that the game ended with either her exile or her death. Rather than despair, however, Catarina decides to take matters within her own hands. Deciding all she needs to do to solve her problems is to become a master of swords and in-game magic, she throws herself into her training. In a bid to improve her affinity with her earth magic, she also decides to start a farm, much to her fiancé's amusement. In line with the video game's lore, Catarina's father soon introduces her to Keith, a distant relative who he adopts into their family. Knowing that in the game, Keith's horrible relationship with Catarina leads to her eventual doom, she decides to shower the boy with love and kindness to stave off any future disaster. An unintended consequence of her actions is that Keith becomes a bit of a siskin, leading to some friction between him and Jordo. Catarina, blissfully unaware, is quite happy, thinking the two have become good friends. Some months pass, and Catarina is invited to a tea party where she befriends the introverted Mary Hunt. The two bond over their mutual love for gardening, and Catarina invites Mary over to her home to help grow some of the wilting vegetables in her tiny farm. One day, while Catarina is cheerfully tending to her garden, a maid runs up to inform her that Jordo's brother, Prince Alan, has come to meet her. Puzzled, she goes to the house to meet with the agitated prince. To her surprise, Alan suddenly orders her to stop seducing Mary. Flabbergasted by the accusation, Alan informs her that Mary, his fiancée, does nothing but talk about Catarina all day. Catarina in turn indignantly calls Alan boring and unappealing. Unable to bear the insult, he challenges her to a contest. She agrees on the condition that they compete in tree climbing. Having earned the moniker of Wild Monkey in her past life for her tree climbing proficiency, Catarina easily vanquishes her foe. Not one to give up easily, though. Alan falls into the habit of regularly challenging her to a rematch, though the results remain unchanged. A friendship thus begins to develop, which makes Jordo jealous. He tells Alan to stop childishly challenging Catarina when the results are obvious. To diffuse the tension, Catarina offers to compete with Alan in a piano playing contest. Catarina goes first, but Alan is the clear winner, surprising everyone with his soulful playing. Jordo compliments him as well, but Alan accuses his brother of offering empty flattery before running away. Catarina chases after him and finds him sitting beneath their race tree. He confides to her that he has never been able to beat Jordo in anything and thinks of himself as a loser. To cheer him up, Catarina tells him that everyone has things they excel at and things they can't handle, and offers to share one of Jordo's weaknesses. While Giordo comes searching for the two, Catarina and Alan hide behind some bushes. When he approaches them, Catarina throws a toy snake at his feet, causing him to panic. None too pleased by this, Giordo threatens to tattle on Catarina to her mother when Alan begins to laugh after witnessing this new side of his brother, as well as Catarina's flustered panic. Their frosty relationship thaws a bit after that, and the two host a tea party together. Catarina's of course invited as well, and saves a beautiful young girl named Sophia from a group of bullies before striking up a conversation with her. Mesmerized by Sophia's silky white hair, Catarina accidentally blurts out a line from a romance novel that she had just finished reading. To her surprise, Sophia recognizes the line, being an avid reader herself. Overjoyed at finding a fellow romance novel lover, Catarina invites Sophia to her home so the two may chat about their shared passion. Overwhelmed, Sophia manages to agree before Catarina is dragged away by Mary and Keith. When Sophia arrives at her home a few days later, she's accompanied by her brother, who Catarina finds somewhat familiar. Upon learning his name, she realizes the boy is Nicol Asgard, the fourth romanceable character in the video game. Mentally kicking herself for getting involved with another flag of doom, Catarina manages to calm herself by realizing she can't give up the only other person who understands her hobby. The two girls have a lovely evening together and agree to make this a regular occurrence, eventually dragging Mary into their obsession as well. And so, Catarina deepens her relationships with all her family and friends. Eventually, her 15th birthday arrives and is celebrated in style with a party where she dances through the night with all her friends. As the evening winds down, she prays the academy, which she must soon attend, doesn't become the stage of her doom and that she can live happy days like this forever. When she finally arrives, she keeps an eye out for any signs of Maria Campbell, the protagonist of Fortune Lover. One day, while she and Keith are in Giordo's room eating sweets, he brings up having met a lost girl who uses light magic. Realizing that this was none other than Maria, Catarina's thoughts spiral, completely missing the fact that Giordo paid her no special attention, having firmly fallen in love with Catarina's wild and chaotic personality over the years. Similarly, when Keith mentions meeting Maria a few days later, she jumps at him, immediately questioning if he fell in love with her. Flustered by his sister bringing up romance out of the blue, he brushes her off by mentioning that he thought nothing of their meeting. But Catarina, being the airhead she is, runs off convinced that two of the four romance targets are already down for the count. Having discovered over the years that she had no talent in magic, she immediately gives up on her grand plans for survival. Instead, she decides to level up her farming skills to feed herself after an inevitable exile, much to her confused friends' amusement. When her smarter friends become members of the Academy Student Council, she starts hanging around in the council room as well. There, she comes into regular contact with Nicol's friend, Sirius Deke, her fellow student council president. Befitting the heroine of an Otome game, Maria's charming looks and personality easily overwhelm Catarina. Instantly becoming enamored, she starts encouraging Maria to pursue her passion for baking and ferociously comes to her rescue when some noble students try to bully her for being a commoner. While the two become closer, Catarina notices that Maria is only truly comfortable speaking with her inside the student council room, since Catarina is constantly surrounded by high-ranking nobles outside. Having forgotten all about her supposed inevitable doom, Catarina decides to showcase the charm of her new favorite person to the rest of her friend group. After ruthlessly defending her from another group of bullies, Catarina invites the grateful Maria to a girls-only tea party, where Maria brings over some baked treats that are an instant hit. Mary floats the idea that the group go out together, on their next day off that is, but Maria excuses herself as she has to visit her family. So instead, when their day off arrives, Catarina drags Keith on a trip to the countryside so they can observe real farms and receive the wisdom of actual farmers. On their way back, they pass by Maria's hometown, and decide to pay her a visit. Though Maria's out shopping when they arrive, they learn by speaking to some of the townsfolk that she and her mother are discriminated against. When Maria comes home, however, Catarina treats her as she always does, and Maria is equally happy to see her. Seeing this brings her mother's thoughts to Maria's childhood. People began spreading rumors that Maria had been the illegitimate child of a noble to explain her affinity for light magic, breaking up her parents' marriage and resulting in an unhappy home for both mother and daughter. Seeing her daughter made the friends she had always longed for bring a rare smile to her face, surprising Maria. She invites Catarina to visit again and to look after her little girl, which Catarina happily agrees to. Soon, it's time for the summer holidays. Catarina, being Catarina, spends the entire time goofing around, either practicing throwing toy snakes as a trump card against Jordo, or immersed in her farming, much to her mother's stress. She's invited to visit a lake by Jordo, but the prince's secret date plan is thwarted by Keith, who catches wind of it and joins them. This gives Catarina the idea to invite all her friends. Once everyone arrives at the lake, a fierce competition takes place over who gets to ride on a boat with Catarina. A battle in which Mary emerges victorious. After a disastrous race over who can row their boat the quickest, the group relax in the sun and attempt to enjoy a cozy picnic. Unfortunately for Catarina, they're interrupted by a duck who flies off after stealing one of her cookies, causing her to give chase while the rest laugh at her misfortune. Before the end of their vacation, the group attends a ball, where Alan plays a new music piece secretly inspired by Catarina. Praising his performance, Catarina asks if he wrote it for someone special, flustering the young man. Before he can respond, Mary drags him off to meet the other guests. As she leaves, she mutters that all her years spent sowing doubt in Alan's mind, that his feelings for Catarina wasn't really love, had nearly gone to waste. She vows to work harder as she can't afford more compensation from Catarina's affection. Catarina, meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the 4D chess Mary is playing, gleefully assumes Mary is jealous that other girls are fawning over her fiancé. The holidays eventually come to a close and exams loom on the horizon. One day, Sophia has a rather strange dream. In her dream, a quiet girl exits the classroom and heads home. Before she reaches the school gate, another girl drops out of a tree on top of her. The assailant frantically asks if she's okay, but the girl sits up, having avoided injury. The stranger refers to the girl as Sasaki Atsuko, revealing that they're classmates. Bonding over this strange experience, the two quickly become friends. One day, to help motivate her friend to study for the exams, Atsuko hands over her favorite game, Fortune Lover, to the girl. After passing the exams, the two walk home and the girls tell Atsuko that she'll spend the entire night playing the game. The next morning, however, Atsuko learns that her friend died in a traffic accident on her way to school. Reading the last message she received from her friend on the way back from the funeral, Atsuko weeps. Promising to live her life to the fullest in memory of her best friend, Atsuko hopes that one day the two will be reunited once again. Sophia wakes up confused and teary-eyed. She meets Catarina and tells her that she feels like she saw a very sad dream from a long time ago, but can't recall what it was about. Catarina reassures her and tells her that it must be a bad dream caused by their dreaded upcoming exams. Claiming she's equally nervous, Catarina declares everything will be alright if they do their best together. Smiling, Sophia happily agrees. On the day of the exams, the first-year students are separated into groups and tasked with retrieving a magic crystal from an ancient wizard's dungeon. Leading her team from the front, Catarina successfully trips every trap she comes across, much to the others' dismay. While Jordo and Keith are busy protecting the group, Catarina falls through a false wall. With the party frantically searching for her, Catarina begins scavenging mushrooms to eat while she waits for help. All the while, a shadowy entity follows her as she cuts through the mushroom stalk using a stone she'd found. Suddenly, a ledge she was standing on gives way and she barely manages to hang on. But her grip soon gives out and she starts falling, but Sophia arrives in the nick of time, just managing to grab her. Now worried they'll both fall, Catarina urges Sophia to let go, but she refuses, telling Catarina she can't lose her again. A giant gust of wind appears out of nowhere, lifting them both before depositing them to safety. With the two wondering what had just happened, the rest of their friends arrive and the shadowy entity looking over them from afar leaves. While they celebrate Catarina's safety, Alan notices the stone Catarina had been using, revealing it to be the crystal they'd been searching for. Catarina sheepishly explains what she had used it for, making everyone laugh. The examination results are announced and Catarina manages to pass, advancing to the second year at the academy. She excitedly shares this with her maid Anne, who congratulates her. Before running off to meet the others, Catarina thanks Anne, telling her that she couldn't have done it without her, taking the maid by surprise. While Catarina runs around making plans to celebrate with friends, Anne watches from a distance, thinking of all the times Catarina's denseness made her miss the obvious signs that everyone had been in love with her. As Anne leaves to do the laundry, she idly wonders why Catarina is so popular with certain people, and acknowledges she's very familiar with why that is the case. Anne was born out of wedlock, with her father being a baron and her mother one of his maids. When she was 15, a tragic house fire led to her mother's death, scarring her with burns in the process. Because of her burns, her father heartlessly told her that he could no longer use her as a pawn for political marriage and forced her to leave. She eventually became a maid at the house of Duke Claes, where she served their bratty young daughter. After her accident, Catarina changed completely. Their time together began bringing Anne out of her shell, and she started to love working at the Claes household. Then one day out the blue, her father arrived at the Duke house, telling Anne that he had found a partner for her and demanded that she return immediately. Before she could respond, Catarina arrived like a force of nature, telling the Baron that she needed Anne to stay, no matter what, because of how important she'd been to her. With tears in her eyes, Anne took Catarina's hand and told the Baron she would be declining the marriage. The Baron tried to protest, but the Duke arrived and had a stern word with him, resolving the matter. Since that day, Anne happily stayed by Catarina's side, determined to follow her wherever she went. Although Catarina managed to clear one hurdle by passing the exam, she's blindsided by another when out of nowhere, a bunch of noble girls accuse her of using her privileged position to bully Maria. Their words ring a bell and Catarina realizes that this is the scene of judgment in the game where all of her crimes are exposed. Rather than being flustered, however, Catarina's confused more than anything because she did not commit any crimes, and all the major characters that accused her in the game are nowhere to be seen. Her friends arrive at that moment and ask about the commotion. The girls pull out a girthy set of documents purporting to list out Catarina's crimes. To both her relief and dismay, her friends adamantly refuse to believe the accusations, insisting Catarina's too stupid to carry out an intricate scheme of bullying Maria from the shadows. Maria herself steps up and angrily reprimands the girls for accusing Catarina. Hearing all this, the girls accusing Catarina hastily retreat. Watching them depart, Maria notices a dark presence surrounding them all. They all head for lunch, which Catarina enjoys with gusto, believing a major crisis had been averted without issue. After lunch, the group heads back when Maria notices the darkness out the corner of her eye and tells everyone to go on without her. Catarina asks if she wants company, but Maria tells her she won't be gone long. The day passes and Maria fails to return. A search is carried out, but they find no sign of her over the next few days. 3 days after her disappearance, Giorgio meets up with Catarina and tells her he investigated the girls who had accused her. He found out that none of them could remember how they could have obtained the documents of evidence against Catarina. Noting that something serious had been afoot, he warns Catarina to be careful as memory loss was a telltale sign of dark magic, a forbidden magic gained by sacrificing human life. He also theorizes that Maria had been kidnapped because, as a light magic user, she would have been able to detect dark magic. The next evening, Catarina is lost in thought when she's approached by Deke, who offers to walk her back to class. Just as Catarina accepts, she's reminded of her friend Atsuko telling her that Fortune Lover has a hidden romanceable character, a red-haired boy who uses dark magic. Realizing who the culprit is, Catarina openly asks Deke if he's the one. He comes clean. revealing he did everything because Catarina's existence was an eyesore.
Catarina Claes, 僕は君が大嫌いだ.
Instead of getting angry, or scared, Catarina instead reaches for Deke and asks why he is in such pain, angrily pushing away. Deke casts a dark magic spell and with tears in his eyes, tells Catarina to fall asleep forever. A confused Catarina is woken up by her mother telling her she's late for school. Finding herself in her old room, Catarina heads for the bathroom to change before cycling to high school. At lunch, she meets with Atsuko, who asks her how much progress she made in Fortune Lover. The rest of the day passes similarly, and she can't help but think that everything feels oddly nostalgic, though she isn't sure why. Back at the academy, a comatose Catarina is looked over by a doctor who tells everyone there is nothing physically wrong other than the fact she isn't waking up. The boys feel responsible for letting her leave their sight, while the girls cry at the thought of her staying like this. At night, while Sophia cries in her bedroom, she hears a voice declaring she refuses to lose Catarina again. Sophia gets up and looks out the window where she sees Atsuko's face reflected back. Announcing that she will save her friend this time, Atsuko tells Sophia to bring her to Catarina. Meanwhile, Catarina meets with Atsuko in an empty classroom. Atsuko tells Catarina she's glad she's got to spend more time with her, but the others are waiting for her return. Everyone's voices suddenly call out, triggering a flood of memories, allowing her to remember everything that had happened. Before returning to her reality, Catarina thanks Atsuko for always being there for her, before fading away. Atsuko smiles, and with tears in her eyes, tells Catarina she'll always be by her side as Sophia. Waking up surrounded by her loved ones, Catarina smiles and tells them she knows where Maria is being kept. She also reveals who the true culprit was, and together they all head for an abandoned storeroom belonging to the Deke family. They find Maria and free her before heading further in to find Deke sitting alone in a rune-covered chamber. Confronting Deke, Catarina asks him why he looked so pained when he put her in a coma. Initially confused, Deke laughs and unveils the Deke family's dark secret. He'd been born out of an affair between his father, the Marquis of the Deke family, and his mother, who'd been a maid. 8 years ago, the Marquis's legitimate son, Sirius, had shared a similar age and appearance with him, had become afflicted with an incurable disease. The Marquis's wife, driven by jealousy, decided to use magic to transfer her son's mind into his body, effectively erasing him. His mother's life was used as a catalyst for this dark magic, and she was murdered before his eyes. The spell, however, failed. Sirius's memories were transferred into his mind, but he retained his own will and somehow gained the use of magic in the process. Tricking the Marquise's wife, he pretended to be her son so he could destroy the Deke family from the inside. Hearing this heartbreaking tale shakes everyone, but Catarina declares her intention to help Deke. Her words and actions, which remind Deke of his mother, cause his dark magic to go berserk. Nevertheless, Catarina heads to him without hesitation. She grabs his hand, telling him that although she can't save him, she can at least promise to stay by his side, and calls him by his real name, Raphael Walt. Her words bring Raphael to tears, allowing him to break free from the corrupting influence. Thanks to his confession, Jordo and Alan put the Deke family members responsible for his horrible fate behind bars, and Raphael leaves the academy to atone for his crimes. With this matter safely resolved, the group returns to their happy-go-lucky lives. Eventually, the time comes for the third-year students to graduate, and everyone wishes Nickel the best for life outside the academy. Catarina tries to sneakily ask Maria if she has fallen for anyone, but she happily replies she only wishes to spend time with Catarina. Realizing she has finally managed to survive Fortune Lover's doomed ending and made it to the finish line on the friendship route, Catarina happily looks towards what life will bring beyond the game's ending. Though she has no idea what comes next, she's happy to face it with all her friends by her side.